Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video on this channel, and in today's video I will show you how you can integrate Supabase authentication with Google and email authentication in your Android app, and we will also build an authentication UI to see how you can do that. So if you do not know what Supabase is, Supabase basically is an alternative to Firebase, which is open source. And the difference between those two is that the Supabase is an SQL database because it uses the PostgreSQL, and the Firebase uses an non-SQL database. So enough with talking and let's do some code. But before that, make sure to grab your coffee and let's jump on Supabase dashboard. Okay, so I'm on the dashboard and we need to enable the authentication. So let's go here in authentication, sign in, and we need to enable the email one, click save, and scroll down a little and you have Google here. So let's click on enable sign in with Google. And before continuing with Supabase, we need to get the client IDs and the client secret. So to get those two, we need to go on the Google Cloud Console and create an Auth key that we will paste it here, and the client secret that we will receive after we create that keys. Okay, so now we are on the Google Cloud Console and let's click on create credentials, and we need to create an Auth client ID. And the application type is an web application, and you can put on whatever name you want. And let's click on create, and now we need to paste this client ID in the Supabase dashboard. We can also copy and paste the client secret, so paste it here, and we can also toggle the skip nonce checks. Okay, so let's click on save. Now we need to also create another client, and this is an Android application. You need to paste the package name, and you can find it in the build.gradle.kts from the app module and paste it here. Now we need to get the SHA1 certificate fingerprint, and to do that we need to go in Android Studio, and in the Gradle tab click on here in tasks, Android, and double click on sign in report, and it will appear down here in the console. I pasted the key there and created the client. Now we are ready to jump into Android Studio. So now let's see what dependencies do we need. So let's open the build.gradle.kts from the app module and scroll down here, and we need to add the Supabase dependencies. So we need to add the BOM and the authentication. And Supabase uses Ktor, so we need to add the Ktor engine. So I'm using the OKHTTP. And for the Google authentication, we need to get the credentials from the Google Credentials API. And these are the dependencies that we need. So let's see what versions do we use. So for the Supabase, we are using the 3.1.1. For OKHTTP, we are using 3.0.3. For the Google ID, we are using the 1.1.1, and the credentials are using the 1.5.0 RC01. You can also get the dependencies from the repository that I will let it in the description of this video. Now let's go back to the main activity, and the first thing we need to do is to create a sealed interface that will handle the authentication response. So let's say sealed interface auth response, and we will have a data object which is success, and it inherits the auth response and the data class error, and this will have one message inside, and let's also inherit from the auth response. Now let's create the authentication manager. So let's say class auth manager, and this will have a context, and let's open the curly brackets. I will paste the Supabase client that I already created on my demo project, and you can create a Supabase client using this function, and make sure that you are passing the Supabase URL and the Supabase key that you will find in the dashboard. And the last thing we need to do in setting up the Supabase client is to install the authentication plugin. Now let's see how we can create a user account. So let's say fun sign up with email, and let's say email value, which is a string, and the password value let's open the curly brackets, and in the return type we will simply return a flow of auth response. And let's put an equals here, and let's open the flow, and if an error occurs we need to catch that, so we will use a try catch block. So catch exception, open the curly brackets here too, and let's say emit API auth response dot error and pass the localized message. Now we can simply say Supabase dot auth sign up with, and we need to specify the provider, and in this case the provider is the email, and make sure to import that from the Supabase library. And now we need to set the email, which is email value, and now we need to also set the password, which is password value. And for the sign in we can do the same thing, so let's say sign in with email, and let's get the email value and the password value, and we return a flow of auth response. Let's open the flow, and let's open the try and catch block, and we will catch an exception, and if something occurs we emit an auth response of error and pass the localized message. And Supabase.auth sign in with, specify the provider, and let's set the email and password. For the Google authentication we need to write more lines of code because we need to create the nonce, and we also need to handle the Google Credentials Manager in order to get the ID token that we need to pass to the Supabase in order to authenticate the user. So we need to say fun create nonce, and this will return a string, and the nonce is like a one-time ID that we will use, and we need to encode it. So let's see how we can do that. Now let's say raw nonce is equal to uid dot random to string, and now we need to get the bytes, so let's say raw nonce to byte array. Now we need to create the message digest, so let's say md message digest get instance and provide the algorithm. For that we will use an SHA-256 to encode the nonce, and let's say digest is equal to md dot digest the byte array, so the bytes as we called it. And the last step is to convert this into a hexadecimal string, so let's say return digest fold, and let's get the variables, and let's say str plus %02x and format it. And now we are ready to create the login Google user, and this also returns a flow of auth response, and this is equal to a flow. Now let's get the nonce, so let's say hashed nonce is equal to create nonce. Now we need to create the Google ID option, so let's say Google ID option get Google ID option builder, and now we need to provide the server client ID, so let me paste it, and it is the one that you added in the Supabase authentication. Now let's also set the nonce, so hashed nonce. You can also set if you want to auto select a Google account, but I will set it to false. And you can also filter authorized accounts, so I will also set this to false. And the last thing you need to do is to call build. Now let's create the credentials request, so let's say request is equal to get credential request dot builder. Now we need to add the credential option, and it is the Google ID option, and let's build this. Now we can create the credential manager, so let's say credential manager manager is equal to credential manager dot create and pass the context. Now let's open the try and catch block, so catch exception and open the curly brackets, and here we will emit the API, not the API, the auth response dot error and the localized message. And now let's get the result. So result is equal to get credential. Now let's get the result. So to do that, we need to say result is equal to credential manager, get credential, and now we need to pass the context and the request. We also need to get the Google ID token credential, and this is equal to Google ID token credential, create form result credential data. And to get the Google ID token, we need to say Google ID token is equal to Google ID token credential ID token, and we need to pass this to Supabase in order to authenticate. So let's say supabase.auth sign in wait. The provider is ID token, and open the curly brackets. And we need to pass the ID token, and this is the Google ID token, and to set the provider, which is Google. So while testing the application, I realized that I do not receive some success cases, and I was looking in the Auth manager because I know I do it correctly, but I forgot to emit the auth response that says success, and we never had a success response because I forgot to emit one. With all this set up, we can start to create the UI. So let's scroll this up and let's open the Supabase course theme, and let's set the theme to always be dark. So let's say dark color scheme, and let me paste some colors. So these are the colors that we will use in our application. Okay, now we can go back to the main activity and let's start to create the gradient that is on the top of the screen. So let's say comp and let's say gradient, and we can remove the modifier. And for that we will use a box, and let's say modifier is equal to modifier. We need to fill the max width, and let's set the height to fill max height of 0.35. Now we need to set the background, and let's say brush dot vertical gradient, and now we need to pass the list of colors. So colors list of, and we have purple, dark purple, not dark gray, dark purple, and black. Now let's also create the screen. So let's create it here. So let's say register screen, and let's remove the modifier because we do not need it. So let's start with a box, and let's say modifier and open the curly brackets. And I'm using a box because the gradient is under the text fields, and we can put this on a new line. And let's say modifier fill max size, and let's set the background color to black, and let's also align all the things at the top center. We can also add the gradient here, and now we can build the UI that has the forms. So let's say column modifier, and let's fill the max size. Let's also apply some horizontal padding, so 20 dp, and some top padding because the text has some space. So let's say 110 dp, and let's also align this horizontally in the center, so center horizontally. Now let's create the text that is above the text field. So let's say text, and let's say create an account, and let's style this. So let's say style material theme typography title large, and let's set the color to white, and don't forget to set this font weight bold. Let's also apply a spacer between the title and the subtitle. So let's say modifier height of 8 dp, and let's create a subtitle now. So let's say text, and I will simply paste it here, and let's start this up. So style, this is on material theme typography body medium, and font, not the font, the color is white. And now let's apply some spacing because we need to create the Google sign-in button. So let's say modifier height 44 dp, or let's make it 40. And now we need to create an outlined button. Let's say on click, and let's let it empty for now. And in the inside we need to say sign in with Google. Let's also create a preview of the screen, and let's say register preview and the Supabase course theme, and let's say register screen. Okay, so as you can see, this is how it looks right now. We have the title, subtitle, and we create the sign in with Google button. So we need to add the image that is the Google logo. So painter, resource are drawable, Google icon, and if you download the repository from the description, you will have it in the repository already. And the content description is null. Let's also set the size to be 24 dp, and let's also make the text white. So let's say color white, and let's also apply some vertical, so modifier padding vertical of 4 dp, and let's now change the shape of the outline button. So we will use a rounded corner shape of 10 dp, and let's make this fill the whole width. And I forgot to add some spacing between the icon and the text. So let's say spacer modifier is modifier dot width, and let's set it as 10 dp. And if it helps you, you can break this down by simply refactor, and let's say register header. This can be the refactor function, the Google sign in button, and here we can simply say on click, and it's an unit, and we can put it here. So let's say on click, and we will let it empty for now. Okay, and if you remember in the design, we have the or that has 2 lines next to it. So we will create that right now. Let's simply say box, and this will be a modifier that will have a weight of 1f. Let's also set the height. So height is 1 dp, and the background color will be color.white and alpha 0.2f. And let's copy this because we have 2 lines, and in the middle we have the text, and let's say or color.white copy alpha 0.7, and this will have some padding, so modifier padding horizontal 10 dp. And as you can see, the lines are at the top, so we need to center these. So let's say vertical alignment, center vertically. And let's also apply some padding because we are too close to the button. So let's say vertical 30 dp. Now we can go down here and we can start to create the email text field. So let's say column, and we will horizontal align this to the start, and we can start to say text, and this is like a label. So let's say email, and let's make this to be white and make this bold. Now we need to apply some spacing between this and the text field. So let's say modifier height of 4 dp, and now we can create the text field. So let's say text field. Now we need to create the values, so we can go up here and let's create the email value, but remember mutable state of an empty string. And let's do the same for the password. So let's copy and paste it here, and let's say password value, and we can replace this with email value. On value change is email value, it is equal to the new value. So new value, we can set the placeholder. So let's say text is equal to John Doe at example text.com, and let's make this more transparent. So let's say color white with a capital and let's say alpha 0.7f. Let's also round the corners. So let's say rounded corner shape 10 dp, and let's change the colors of the text fields. And to do that, we need to say text field defaults dot colors, and as you can see, we have this indicator, and we can remove this by saying unfocused indicator color and set it to transparent. And we need to also set the focused indicator color, because this will reappear when the text field is focused because it's not transparent. Now let's change the container color, and as you can see, it's kind of brighter, and we will darken this up. So let's say focused container color dark gray, and the unfocused container color is dark gray, and this is much better. And we can also make this fill the whole width of the screen, so fill max width. Now let's go down here under the column and add some spacing, because we need to create the password text field. So modifier height 20 dp, and we can simply copy and paste this because it will save you a lot of time. So let's say password, and let's replace this with password value here too. And here, let's say enter your password. And now we need to also hide the password, because as it is right now, if you type in some text, it will show it up. So we can say visual transformation, password, visual transformation. For example, if you want to toggle the password visibility, you can add an icon at the end of the text field with a trailing icon. And you can create a boolean that takes in consideration the visibility, and it can be like his password hidden, and if it's hidden, we show the password visual transformation. Else we can simply say visual transformation dot none, and this will show like a normal text, but I will go with password visual transformation to keep this easy to understand. Now we need to go under this column and let's say spacer, and we need to apply some space, because under the password text field we will have the sign up button. So apply 25 dp, and now let's say button, and on click it's empty for now, and we can simply say text, and let's say sign up, and let's also apply some padding, vertical padding of 4 dp. Let's put arguments on separate lines, and let's also style the button. So let's say the colors is equal to button defaults colors, button colors, I'm sorry, and the container color is white. And let's also make this fill the screen width, and let's change the shape to a rounded corner shape of 10 dp. Let's also increase the spacing here because it's too close to the password text field. Okay, so my camera just died, but let's continue like this because we don't have much left. So let's paste it here. And here we can create a text button, because let's say if the user has an account, he can click on this button and redirect it to the sign-in flow. But I won't create it here, and this is like your homework and you can implement it in your project. So let's say text button on click, and let's have the text. Let's put it on a new line, and we will use an annotated string because we have already have an account with a light font weight, and the login is in a bold font weight. So let's use the build annotated string to apply different styles to the same text composable. So let's say with style, style, and we will use a span style here. Let's open the curly brackets and put this on a new line, and the font weight is font weight dot light. We can set the color to be color white, copy alpha 0.f, And in the curly brackets, we need to use append to append some text. And let's say already have an account, and add some space here. And we need to use with style and do the same thing. So let's say span style, open the curly brackets, append, and let's say log in. And in the span style, we will use the font weight bold, and we will make it color white. And now we can go at the top of the register screen, and we can get the Auth manager. So first, let's get the context by using local context.current, and let's say Auth manager is, remember, Auth manager, and pass the context. And we also need the coroutine scope to launch the flow. So remember coroutine scope. Let's go to the Google sign in button, and here we can say Auth manager dot login Google user on each, and here you can handle the results. So if result is Auth response dot success, you do something, otherwise you can show an error to the user. And we need to launch this in the coroutine scope. So launch in coroutine scope. Let's go down to the sign up button. So it is here, and we need to do the same thing. So let's say Auth manager, sign up with email, and let's say email value, password value, and on each do the same thing as I did in the Google function. So let's say launch in and pass the coroutine scope. And for the test, let's simply use the result, so to print something in the console. So result is Auth response dot success. We print log, and let's say the tag is Auth, and we print success, let's say email success. And for the error, we can simply use log.e and let's say email failed. And let's copy and paste it up here. So Google success and Google failed. Add this in the register, in the main activity register screen, and we need to make sure that we tell the application that we are using the internet. So we need to use permission. So let's say use this permission internet, and now we are good to go. And now let's run the app and test it out. Now let's run the app and let's test it. So I tested the Google authentication, it works. So let's click on sign in with Google and click on your account and wait a couple of seconds, and as you can see, we have Google success. So now let's try to create a Google account. So let's say john.doe example.com, and let's enter a random password, sign up, and let's open the logcat, and it says success. So that's it, and if you found this video helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. And I also want to thanks to the channel members, because you support me every month and your support means a lot to me, and I want to thank you again. And that was the video, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye bye.